We are back again. We're back again talking transfers, this and that, and we're talking Gyokeres today. Said it yesterday, said it today. Gyokeres, my guy today. We're going to be chit-chatting this and that and all about Viktor Gyökeres. I've got my guy Akpos beside me. And look, if you guys haven't already, do me a favor on the road to 1K. Please hit the subscribe button, smack a like for us, get this content out there. Hopefully we can drive to 1K after this stream. If you can, smack them likes. But we got Viktor Gyökeres news today. And me and Akpos are going to break it down. Before we get into that, Akpos, how are you going right now, bro? How you
I'm
feeling?
doing good. I'm doing good. I'm calm. I know a lot of Arsenal fans right now are getting stressed, are getting worked up with the transfer. But my advice to other Arsenal fans right now, to fellow Gunners right now, is to stay calm. I think personally, the way I feel, I have this good feeling about the way things are in the transfer window right now. I feel Andre Beta is cooking. So guys, take a seat, relax, and I feel at the end of the day we are all going to shop jollof rice. So let's look forward to what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. I'm positive that we will potentially get some good news in terms of incoming for Arsenal.
Well, man, I couldn't agree with you more. Zubio obviously done. Zubs is going to be an Arsenal man, and now it's all about who that number 9 is going to be. And with news today coming through that Viktor Gyökeres has pretty much made a statement. Oh, and I'm out, and I am. Oops, something happened there. Can you see me? Can everyone see me?
I can hear you, but we can't see you. You're frozen right now. We have a still image. Yeah.
Give me 1 sec.
Hopefully we will get the Osiguna back. But big up to everybody who's on the chat right now. Brainy, I see you. Big up to Brainy. I hope you're doing good, brother. I hope it's all good and you're having a wonderful time and you are very relaxed and you're getting ready for the season, because I think like this coming season is going to be a very interesting one. And big up Neil Kane. Good afternoon to you, brother. I hope you're having a wonderful time too. And what's your take, Neil? What do you think is going to happen with respect to Viktor Gyökeres? Do you see him coming to Arsenal, or you think we've missed out on that one? But Brenny saying also, who would we take in terms of Gyokeres and Sesko? And the easiest answer is both. Brenny, I think it will be Christmas coming way very early for Arsenal fans if the club is going to pull this one off. Get a player for now and a player for the future, because personally I think Benjamin Sesko is the guy who is going to be for the future, and Viktor Gyökeres I see more as the more proven striker, the more experienced guy, the guy who will come into the team right now and he would lift up the quality in terms of that number 9 position. So I would love both, Brenny. If Beta is able to pull it off and sign both Viktor Gyökeres and Benjamin Sesko, I'll be screaming for the man to be built a statue outside of the Emirates next up as soon as possible. But good to have the host back. Good to have you back. I think you should take over proceedings now. Good to have you back, brother.
Thank you, my guy, for taking up. Guys, we had a bit of technical difficulty here. I start talking Gyokeres, and Mikel Arteta must have heard me. Smashed my internet, said, no, there'll be none of that. No, there'll be plenty of that. There's plenty of Gyokeres news. And one bit of news that I have read today is the fact that Juventus has actually gone in and asked about Viktor Gyökeres' availability and where he sees himself and where his future is. Apparently, they were willing to offer him, a stunning deal of about £11 million a year to try and persuade him to come over. But the Italian side have been informed that Gyokeres is simply wanting to join Arsenal this summer, and he's holding out for a potential deal for Arsenal. Now, to be honest, this is exactly what I want to hear from a player that wants to transfer to Arsenal, that wants to be part of the squad, that is driving and doing everything he can possibly do to get over the line. Now, I understand that there has been a row between him and his respective club, but a gentleman's agreement was agreed upon, and it looks like his current club is sort of folding on that agreement. Akpos, what do you make of that news? How do you feel about that kind of news in regards to to Juventus being snubbed by Gyokeres, and potentially him putting his hand up and saying, "Look, I don't want anyone. I don't want Man United. I don't want Juventus. I don't want no one. I want Arsenal."
Well, for me, I think it's a good one. It shows a statement that the Arsenal project right now is a very easy one to sell, because I think we are a club who is on the upward trajectory. People should not forget about that. We are doing very well in the UEFA Champions League. We are regularly competing to win the Premier League. So, if you want to compare where Arsenal is right now and where Juventus is right now, I think they are, on a different side of the coin. Juventus is a club that I follow in the Italian Serie A, so I know that we are not the Juve side is not as big as they used to be, but now Arsenal is a more attractive project. So I think any player with the right mind would want to pick Arsenal over going to Juve right now. If you are, on quotes, if you want to win the big trophies, if you want to be very competitive. So I feel that was very, very, very predictable one for me. I personally thought if both teams are put on the plate now, it would pick Arsenal above Juve, because Juve is on a downward trajectory. They are trying to rebuild. I think they are the spot where we were in the last couple of years before Mikel actually joined us. So I think that gives us a picture of where Juve currently are right now in terms of their project. So I was excited with that one, and it's a good thing that we have players out there who want to jump at the offer to join Arsenal. And these are the kind of players that I want us to go out to get, not guys who are using us as a stepping stone. Players who want to use us as a stepping stone to get a new contract at their club. We've seen it happen in recent times with some players in the Bayern Munich team. We've also seen it happen with some other players where their agents will just put Arsenal in the mix, to get a new contract at their club or to get that preferred deal they've been looking for. We saw it happen with a player that is already heading to Barcelona in recent time, where he kept us in the picture. But all this while, his known destination was to go to Barcelona. So I think these are the right players that we should go for. Players who really want to play for Arsenal. Players who are, showing intent that this is the club where I see my future. This is the club where I think they have they have the best projects for me. The club where I think I could potentially go and achieve way more than I've achieved so far in my career. So that's a plus for us. That should be something for us, to make this deal. If this is a deal that the club really wants, that should be something that makes this deal, a little bit quicker for us, because we know that the player wants to come. Definitely, in terms of agreeing personal terms and all of that, those will not be a stumbling block or a hurdle in this particular transfer. So for me, I think the only question mark with this Viktor Gyökeres story now would be Sporting and what they are currently requesting in terms of the evaluation for the strikers, because Gyokeres wants Arsenal. So that is a good one for us. I think that is a very advantageous position that we are right now in terms of signing Viktor Gyökeres. But let's see what's going to happen in the next couple of days.
I think you've covered that so well. It goes without saying that it's Viktor Gyökeres or bust, in my opinion. And I think Arsenal would be silly right now not to take advantage of this. And look, I don't think they won't. I think with the way the tides are turning between Šeško and Gyokeres, Šeško coming out allegedly saying that he wants a release clause. Now I see that sort of a request from a player who, in my opinion, has done bugger all really in his respective league, to say, I'm looking for a release clause. He's thinking of using Arsenal as a stepping stone. Whereas Viktor Gyokeres is looking at Arsenal as a potential home. Now, understandably, both these players, one being at 22, one being at 27 respectively, are at different stages of their careers.
Yeah.
But it's apples and oranges of age. It's apples and oranges in statistics. Viktor Gyokeres is coming to the table where we were looking at his stats previously and just refreshing our minds off air. And I was thinking it was about 48 or 49 goals, and Akpos has corrected me, over 50 goals in one season with, as I'm reading here, 39 goals in his respective league. Now, I understand there are going to be penalties there, but we only have one preferred penalty taker in Bukayo Saka. Martin Odegaard is shambolic when it comes there. It's scary to see him take a penalty or any sort of free kick. So having two players that can take penalties, that's one or the other. And having a player who's able to score in his respective league right now, which is a lesser league, much like Šeško is a lesser league, can score upwards of 30 goals in one season, is a big plus, in my opinion. And I mean, with this comment right here from a rich man, I've seen Gyokeres and Šeško games, and they both feel a bit clunky. It's obvious they don't face quality defenses. And look, understandably, they are coming from lesser leagues. They are
Sure.
100%. But where Arsenal are right now when they're looking for a striker is they're not going to go for an Isak. Isak is the other striker that I would say is quality that you could go for. You can't go for who else? You can't go for Haaland. You're not going to go for Haaland. There's not many out there anymore. So now it's about trying to find the diamond in the rough. And Šeško being the younger diamond, the nice, rich and uncut. And of course, Gyokeres being proven in his respective league. It's trying to figure out what's going to fit best. Akbos, what do you make of this comment down here? What do you think? I mean, it holds a pretty strong statement. It's a spade on this statement. I like this.
Yeah, I totally agree with the point there in him saying both are coming to face better defensive setups. We know that the Premier League is going to be challenging for whichever number 9 we're potentially going to get. And I totally agree with Richman there. But I think I would lean towards Viktor Gyökeres also with the fact that he has played in England. Some people would want to say, okay, he has played in Coventry and all of that. But yes, we know how challenging that division could also be. So, and also we are signing a guy. If it's going to be Viktor Gyökeres, we are signing a player who is going to be very experienced. We are signing a player who is playing in his prime. We are signing a player who has faced top quality challenges in terms of the UEFA Champions League. So we've also seen Viktor Gyökeres against the Man City defense. We've also seen Viktor Gyökeres against the Arsenal defense, and we saw that even though we bashed them during the game, but we could see that yes, this is the guy who could potentially be problem for some of the top defenses in the Premier League. So I would want to lean towards Viktor Gyökeres because he's the more proven guy, he's the more experienced player, is the player who I have seen more in terms of what he could do now when you want to compare him with Benjamin Sesko, because I've watched both play, but in terms of the player that convinced me most with what they could potentially give to Arsenal right now, I would say every day of the week and twice on Sunday is Viktor Gyökeres for me. So I lean towards Viktor Gyökeres with respect to this statement.
It's unfortunately it's the double-edged sword, right? We've got two options at the moment that we're being hounded with: Viktor Gyökeres or Šeško. And when you look at the stats, when you look at the player, when you look at the ability, when you look at how they perform in their respective leagues, Viktor Gyökeres is miles ahead of Šeško right now. Not to say Šeško won't get there in a few years, but for me right now, Viktor Gyökeres is the player we need for today and tomorrow. Maybe for not next week, but for today and tomorrow. If we're looking to win the league in the next 2 seasons, Gyokeres is the kind of player you want. Gyokeres is the kind of player you can work with. I mean, look, guys, I'm Arsenal fans through and through. I'm an Arsenal fan up and down. I'm not looking to just be 4th. I'm not looking to be 3rd. I'm looking to build a squad that's going to not just challenge, but possibly win the Premier League. And Šeško being a project, you would have to buy both. You would have to, in my opinion, if you're going to buy Šeško, you'd have to buy Gyokeres, because Šeško hasn't proven anything in his respective league, whereas Gyokeres has. Now, there's another comment here that I liked, and yes, arguably I'd say Mbeumo is better than Gyokeres. Yes, on the right. Mbeumo down the middle for Arsenal, and he's made it clear where he wants to go right now. And that's not Arsenal. Now you have players that will come to Arsenal because of, Champions League, because it's a great project. And Mbeumo has decided not to come to Arsenal, and we all know where he's going. Now, dollars and cents, unfortunately, sometimes are a massive factor when it comes to certain players moving on. But Mbeumo right now, Manchester United links, Spurs links, but not Arsenal. Now, what can I say? He's looking for a big chunk of coin. And don't get me wrong, understandably, he deserves it for his feats. But I wouldn't be sitting there for a player like Mbeumo and thinking to myself, well, I'll bring him in, even though he's trying to jump from Man United to Spurs and really isn't the kind of player that wants to be at Arsenal. You know, when I look at Viktor Gyökeres and he's pushing for Arsenal because he believes in the project, because he believes that this could be, yes, maybe the biggest move of his life and at the best time of his career. I'd rather take the informed player that's actually looking to come to Arsenal rather than, yeah, I know an English player that really doesn't want nothing to do with us. That's my opinion on Mbeumo. I love him too. I wanted him at Arsenal. But when I saw he's jumping over to United or Spurs, I was like, wow, like, that's interesting. And not to say that we haven't knocked on that door, but when a player comes out and he's happy to join the project at United and isn't worried about Champions League football, I mean, he's never seen it, but he's not worried about Champions League football. It tells me where his aspirations are, right? If you want to play for Arsenal, we want to be in the Champions League. We want to win the Champions League. We want to win the Prem. If it's like, oh, who cares about Champions League? I'm just happy to collect my money and play in the Premier League. That's cool. Not a problem. There's plenty of teams that you could go join Everton. They're in the Prem. Or in this case, Mbeumo's going to probably join Spurs. But a great player he is. I just don't like, I don't know. You know, United, really? At this time? I don't think it's a good move. But what would you think, Akpos? I mean, the comparison here is, the comparison was between Gyokeres and Mbeumo. Richman says that he was arguing and saying that Mbeumo is better than Gyokeres right now. And he has a point. Mbeumo's been doing it in the Prem. But my rebuttal for it was his moves going for United and Spurs just tells me where his head's at. You've muted yourself.
I got that now. I think both players are different profiles. Let me start with that first. Mbeumo is more a player who could play several positions, and I would love us to get Brian Mbeumo if we were looking for a left winger, in my opinion, or somebody who could deputize for Bukayo Saka, because that's where I see him primarily as. His position for me is right wing, and Viktor Gyökeres primary position for me is playing as the number 9, playing as a striker. So to compare Brian Mbeumo and Viktor Gyökeres, I think is a little bit not a very good comparison for me. But in terms of the all-round player, in terms of who is the better footballer, I would say it's Brian Mbeumo. But who is the better number 9? Who's the better striker in terms of that position? Definitely, we all know the answer to that. That's Viktor Gyökeres. And what we are looking for at Arsenal right now is a number 9 specialist, in my opinion. I think we've seen a lot of these versatile players who could play multiple positions. I think we already have enough of that. What we need right now is first a number 9 specialist, a player who plays primarily as a striker, as a number 9, as a goal-getter, as a goal scorer for me. And you know, I've had this conversation with you before, Steve, and also with Brainy, and I said when it comes to this striker that we want to get in this transfer window, what comes first for me in terms of their quality is their ability to put the ball on the back of the net. Every other thing else is number 2, number 3, number 4. The number 1 priority for me, with the way I've looked at this team, look at what is lacking, look at what we need, look at what I think, I might be wrong though, but in my opinion, what I think takes us to the next level is a number 9 that is very clinical. A number 9 that knows how to put the ball in the back of the net. Every other thing else for me is secondary, because that is what we are currently lacking. A player who steps up to the plate and finishes his dinner. A player who you know that if he's true on goal, puts the ball on the back of the net. And right now, when you look at that position, we can't beat our chest and say, Gabriel, this is true on goal. He puts the ball on the back of the net. Kai Havertz is true on goal. He puts the ball on the back of the net. Gabriel Jesus can play. Gabriel Jesus can play multiple wings. So I don't think we need another number 9 that could potentially do that. I need a number 9 that would focus on the number 9 position. Kai Havertz can play multiple positions also. So for me, I think you already have this kind of players that have similar profile, a little bit to something that you would want from a Brian Mbeumo. So why do you need another player like that again when you don't have a player who could potentially give you what you want? I think we need players who would add more goals to this team, and Brian Mbeumo could potentially be one. But for me, we are not looking for a left wing specialist, because if it comes to Arsenal now, we know Brandon Mbeumo is not going to play ahead of Bukayo Saka. Let's be honest. And he's not a left wing specialist, in my opinion. So I would not want to sign a player for that big amount and play him off position, setting him up to potentially fail, and then we'll come back to blame him. So these are the reasons why I would not fancy a Brandon Mbeumo signing right now. And for me, I think when it comes to the number 9 position, Viktor Gyökeres is better than Brandon Mbeumo. But if it comes to a player who's versatile, can play multiple positions for you, then Brandon Mbeumo is your guy to go to.
And that's a fact. That is perfect because, again, horses for courses. You're looking for a 9. We brought in Kai Havertz to play that 9 when really he's more of a 10, right? You brought in Gabriel Jesus, who is more of a 7 than he's a 9, but he tries to play 9. We've always had, how can I say, the square peg in the round hole when it came to the number 9 role. We got rid of Aubameyang. We got rid of Lacazette. Not to say that Lacazette was great, but he was a 9. But we never really replaced them with like for like. We replaced them with he should be able to do a job. And this is another position he could play. Not a player who he is a 9, but can potentially be an 11. I would rather, I would agree with you 100% that if we're going to move for a striker, it needs to be a striker of, let me say, a decent stat pack, if I want to call it that. A player who has proven that he is up to scratch when it comes to his respective league. A player who specializes as a striker. He's good on left or the right foot. He's a poacher. Because in the end of the day, we're trying to add a 3-dimensional Arsenal here. We're 1-dimensional at the moment with Bukayo Saka. Our left wing is inept. It's anemic. It's useless. And our number 9 role is a fluke. If you were to start Arsenal next season with Viktor Gyökeres as the 9, Bukayo Saka as the 7, and Bukola as the 11 maybe, let's say, or a Rodrigo, let's say it was a Rodrigo, I don't think too many Arsenal fans would hate that very much. A Rodrigo on your left, Gyokeres up front, Bukayo Saka on the right, with a Kai Havertz possibly coming in as a 10 in some instances when you need a player who can be influential because maybe Odegaard isn't going to be that guy, or to come in as maybe a sub for Gyokeres. I don't see a problem with that. I actually look at that and I think to myself, that's a good bit of business. And with the kind of goals that he's scoring in Champions League, the kind of goals that he's scored in his respective league, 27 years old, proven, £70 million, give or take, including add-ons, which is more than what was supposed to happen. I think it's a deal that can be done, Akpos. I'm excited by Gyokeres to Arsenal. I'm excited about this.
Bro, I think we've talked about this Gyokeres situation and what we potentially need. I want to take us back a little bit to something that was posted on the Arsenal's socials across. I think it was last season, right? If I'm correct, it was last season. A clip was posted on Arsenal's socials, and where each player was coming into the training ground, and they were asked what quality they would take from one of their teammates. And we heard some of the players mention Martinelli's speed. Some of his teammates said they would love to get Martinelli's speed. A lot of some other guys mentioned something else. But during that clip, we all noticed that no Arsenal player said, I wanted to take the finishing of A teammate, or the finishing of B teammate, or the finishing of C teammate. So that tells us that even these guys know that finishing currently is lacking in this Arsenal team. So for me, I think what we should be looking at first is the number 9's finishing ability, because we know that this team is not clinical in terms of our forwards. So we need to bring in a player who has, just like you rightly said, who has a proven track record of finishing, a proven track record of, if he gets the ball, if he's true on goal, there's a high chance of him putting the ball in the back of the net. And right now, with the guys that we are currently linked with, Viktor Gyökeres is the player that fits that bill. And something people are also not mentioning with Viktor Gyökeres, let me also bring this up during this conversation, is Viktor Gyökeres is very available during the season. Last season for Sporting Lisbon, he played 33 games. The season before that, he played 33 games. The season before he moved from Coventry to Portugal, he played 49 games. And at Arsenal, we have players who are struggling with fitness, players who, cannot stay fit for most part of the season. So I think it ticks that availability box because, yes, a lot of us will say availability is the best quality right now when you want to sign a player. Because if that player is, let's say, very good, but the player is not available, it becomes a disadvantage for you. So Viktor Gyökeres also, he has got the numbers in terms of his goals. He has got the numbers in terms of his assists because people are also not talking about his assist. He's also creating chances for people to score. And it's a striker who could potentially also create his own chance, for himself to score. And the fact that he's available for most part of the season is also a big one for me. I think we need to also bring in a player who is not going to come with some kind of injury problems or some kind of injury history. And Viktor Gyökeres is also a player that fits that bill for me.
The best, it's availability. That's what you want. The best ability. You can have the best player in the world in Jack Wilshere, Aaron Ramsey, Abu Diaby. I remember him. What a player. But the injuries took him out. Robin Van Persie, guys, RVP, remember me? He was trash, injured every 15 minutes up until his last year or two at Arsenal. Now, with Viktor Gyökeres being available, let's say 95% of his career, and with the kind of issues that we have of overplaying certain players, running him into the ground, this is going to be a strength that we could really utilize. And we all know Mikel Arteta, and when it comes to trying to rotate his squad, it doesn't happen. It's the best player plays every damn game. He doesn't understand how to make a substitution or how to rotate his squad to help with fatigue and injuries. No. He's the kind of player and says, that's my guy. That's my 9. He's going to play every damn game. Or bust. Or bust. But I'm going to jump into these comments real quick. Prince Fawad in the building. He says, I think it's going to be Gyokeres to Arsenal. And I hope it is, my guy. I swear. Brenny is saying, a forward line of Gyokeres, Šeško, and Saka would win us the league. What these 3 players have is work rate and hunger. Week in, week out performances guaranteed, in my opinion. Now, look, I think any striker that we bring in that can put the ball into the back of the net is going to do well at Arsenal. But some are better than others. You know what I mean? Boots and Bants in the building. Yes, boys. What is good? What is good, my guy? Thank you for joining us, man. Thank you for joining us. It's an easy transfer. Big up the panel. Thank you, Prince Fawad. Fabrizio has just said Nketiah is coming home. Nketiah Yang on his way back home. Yeah, man. Let's get it happening. While we're at it, we'll get Oxlade-Chamberlain back as well, just for shits and giggles. Why not? Another person who can just sit on his ass and collect some coin. Dub 8, Gyokeres and the league is over. Tell me that. Tell me that now. Tell me that. Like, Gyokeres comes in with a decent 11. And yeah, we're knocking on the door again. We are definitely knocking on the door again.
Sure.
Liverpool is an animal. Manchester City are strengthening. And they've done their business early. We need to be able to bolster our squad in order to be able to commit ourselves to the Premier League. Now, let's not get it twisted. There are many a competition that Arsenal are going to be in the coming season. The Champions League, Premier League, respectively, and the Cups. Now, we know that we don't have the squad depth to be able to be competitive in all of them, and let's call a spade a spade. But if we want to win the bigger ones, if we want to try and win the Prem or the Champions League, we need to have the right bodies available constantly. And I think that when it comes to Gyokeres and it comes to our 11, and hopefully a possible 10, I want them to be of a certain pedigree and with a certain stat behind them. A rich man. When did Fab say that? Dude, shits and giggles FC, man. That's all laughs. Fabrizio would never. Even if it was true, he wouldn't. Even if it was true, he's like, I'm not going to report that shit. Fuck that. Fuck that, man. Fuck that. Here we go. Priority. Here we go. Priority. 1, striker. 2, central midfielder. Maybe 2. Centre back. Okay, a left winger. Attacking midfielder. Selviera. Thank you very much. Lakonga, Nelson, Zinchenko, sell and replace Jesus, and Tommy in January. And my guy, my girl, wherever, that sounds beautiful to me. Akboss, what do you think? Is that music to your ears when it comes to these names and these players?
I totally agree. I totally agree with what I'm seeing on my screen. I think if we can do a business like this, a lot of us will be really excited about what's to come next season. But also, we know that these are the positions we need to fill in. Some of those positions has been spilled over from the last couple of transfer windows, but they have to be quality players, because we have been talking about what we could potentially want as the striker that comes in, but we also need to the left wing is also going to be key for us next season. So that left wing is also a position that would potentially take a large chunk of our transfer budget for this transfer window, and we are hoping is going to be a transfer statement, a statement that we know would tell the oppositions that we are also ready to push again for the big trophies this season. So I'm personally, I would want to put my preference out there. I'm hoping it's going to be Rodrigo from Real Madrid, but let's see what's going to happen.
That's going to be a big move. A Gyokeres and a Rodrigo to Arsenal. Oh, that would be an almost perfect transfer window, which we'd never had. Honestly, never had.
Yeah.
Austin says, Aussie Guna has a channel finally. I've had a channel for a while. I've just been MIA, semi-retired. I've been here and everywhere. You know what I mean? A rich man, he comes in and says, the striker we signed doesn't need to score bangers every week or score hat-tricks versus Madrid. They need to score the winner versus Everton's, West Ham's, and other low blocks. Now, exactly. Look, your Haalands can do that. In some instances, you want a striker who's going to add a dynamic, who's going to add, who's going to show an impact, who's going to put fear into the eyes of the potential defenders. Now, Bukayo Saka, when he faces any team in a low block, it's very easy to shut him down. You put 2 on him, and it makes it completely difficult. Now, his outlay when he's got 2 on him is Odegaard, Ben White, respectively, right? Dishes back out to the wing and recycle. Shift back down to the right-hand side, double up, foul him, hurt him, it's done. Now, in my opinion, what I think Arsenal need to achieve is a more 3-dimensional attack where it can go from left to right. Because, guys, football is fun. Football is shits and giggles. If you're going to be passing a ball, you're passing a ball down, say, the right flank. You're going to go from your right back into the midfield, back onto the wing. You don't just pass straight ahead. Now, there's also chances of switching up play. When you're going from right side to left, if you can move the ball at a rate of speed and your left winger is of a pedigree like you're right, then that attack that wave, that overload can now start on the left. Of course, if you have a number 9 and you have a potential of playing down the middle of the field, well, then the ball can be recycled. Instead of switching from the right, you can recycle back to your right back into your 10, and then hopefully 1-2 with your number 9. We do not have a number 9 that can do that. So Šeško, maybe, a Gyokeres, more than likely, would add another dynamic to Arsenal's attack, in my opinion. I mean, does that make sense to you, Akpos, or is it a bit out there?
Bro, I think you're spot on. I think something we should also remember is the fact that our attack is very one-dimensional and it's very predictable. That's why some of these teams are finding it very, very, very easy to cut us off in the Premier League when they come with their low block, because they expect us to concentrate on the right side, which is what has happened in the last couple of seasons, because most of our attack is always coming on the right. And if you look at the percentage of our attack through the central areas, the past season, it's really dropped. We are not attacking through the middle because we know for obvious reasons we don't have the quality there, and also with our system, our central, the player who's supposed to be like the focal point there, the striker for us is always dropping way too deep in some instances, in some occasions. When we put the ball in, is nowhere to be found to finish the dinner. So I think that's also something we need to look out as we prepare for next season. Our attack needs to be less predictable. I think that would put teams in a very difficult position when they try to defend against us, because let me just try to put this out there. We remember how so efficient that Liverpool team that had Mane on the left and Salah on the right were during the period while Mane was there, because you don't know what you know that Salah will kill you when the ball gets to him. You know that Mane will do the same thing to you, but you could not stop them because if you concentrate on Salah, Mane will do the damage. But now when teams concentrate on Saka and we try to play to the left, we know what happens with Martinelli, or we know what happens with Trossard when Trossard starts. So I think bringing in a left winger who is, of that quality and could give you potentially in terms of the end product to what Saka could give, if somebody that could match it or somebody that could give you something close, that makes it even very, very more difficult for teams to defend against us. And with the striker coming in, that's also pretty much like a triple threat match for those who watch the WWE. So for me, I think that's something we should be looking out to try to reproduce, where our attack cannot be predicted before the game. I think a lot of teams found it very easy last season to cut us off because they know that if they block the right side, through the middle, we have no threat. On the left, it's practically next to nothing. So I think we need to have a more balanced, three-dimensional kind of threats. I think that puts teams that could help us push teams to the wall. And we know that yes, even though we know we'll still try to do most of our attacking from the right, but I think it gives teams a lot more headache when they know that Arsenal's got a target man or a striker who could finish in the middle, and a left winger who could create as much havoc as Bukayo Saka can create. Because if you want to put 3 players on Saka, that means there's an opportunity on the left for the left winger to have a one-on-one situation. So if the left winger is somebody who is very skilled at those 1v1 situation, I think that gives us an edge. And also with bringing in a striker who could also give you a focal point through the middle. So I think this is something we need to try to recreate, and that will also ease the burden on Bukayo Saka and even give Saka more opportunity to thrive and more opportunity to score goals, because the way they are marking him right now, it makes it so much difficult for that young man. I think we are putting too much burden, too much responsibility on Saka's shoulders. We need to try to take a little bit away from his shoulders with bringing in more quality players that would share in these responsibilities for me.
Oh, look, I think I'm 100% with you here, Akpos. It's about a team game and not just a one-dimensional attack. Our defense is wonderful. It's well balanced. You're good on the left. You're good on the right. You're good centrally. Our midfield is solid now. You've got Zubi coming in, and unfortunately Partey on his way. But you've got Declan Rice in there, quality midfielder. Martin Odegaard, to an extent, does a decent job. But our front line is Bukayo Saka. It is 100% Bukayo Saka. And in this comment here is, to be honest, I do not mind selling Trossard or Martinelli if it makes Rodrigo possible. I will tell you now that if we do move on a player like Rodrigo, one of these players would be going, and in my opinion, it would more than likely be Martinelli, because we'd be able to see some money back for Martinelli. And in my opinion, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Martinelli move on. I just do not think that Arsenal is the right team for him. He's had many an opportunity when he didn't deserve said opportunities over Trossard. I just don't think it's working out. I think if he goes to a lesser team or another team, it could be a career-defining moment for him. But I think at Arsenal, I think he's done and dusted. And I think if Rodrigo does come to Arsenal, he's going to want to push for a move himself, because he will be playing second fiddle. And Trossard, to be honest, has been outperforming him, in my opinion, for the limited amount of minutes that he's had at Arsenal. But moving on, let's see what else you got in these comments. I would sacrifice the left wing position. Here we go, Charles. Here we go. What do you got here? I'll sacrifice the left wing position to get both Šeško and Gyokeres. We can get a left wing next season when we sell either Trossard or Martinelli. Now, look, that's your opinion, and you are 100%. It is your opinion. I am going to respect it. But for me, my opinion is the left wing is actually more important than the 9. Now, hear me on this. I'm thinking Alexis Sanchez. Do you guys remember Alexis Sanchez? Wow. In the middle was Giroud, a lamppost, as everyone would call him. But our attack was phenomenal. Ozil, Sanchez, Giroud, it was great. I do believe that we've got an Alexis Sanchez-esque kind of player, impactful player like Bukayo Saka on the right. Imagine having that on the left as well. Then maybe our Šeško and our Gyokeres, as clunky as they could be, coming from those leagues, and that was on a comment before, and that could be, the how can I say, the emphasis on their inability to be able to be as clinical as Haaland or Isak is now diminished because you have a left winger who's being able to create chances and take chances, like Bukayo Saka, and take on a man. So when you stretch the left-hand side, if you can stretch out a defender, right, you take the respective right back and the right centre back, take their attention and drag him in. That opens up for a number 9, a quick number 9 and a header, and you're laughing. And that could play up even for Bukayo Saka, who will run to that post. So I believe that you want to go from wing to wing, and that's the way we play at the moment. So I believe the number 9 being number 11 being Rodrigo, being an expensive acquisition, whereas Gyokeres being a slightly cheaper acquisition than the 9, suits me fine. I would rather not go for Šeško. But what would you reckon, Akbos? Would you take Gyokeres and Šeško over a left wing this season? So if you were to go, let's say we'd say Gyokeres and Šeško, and you don't see Bacola, or maybe you don't see Rodrigo.
Well, like Charles, my brother, I understand you because we have been starved in that number 9 position for a long time. I understand that you want to cover the now and the future. I get that, brother, and I would love it if we could potentially bring in Šeško and Gyokeres at the same time, but I would not want that to happen at the detriment of getting the left winger, because just like Steve rightly said, we need that left winger as much as we need the number 9 to come in, because our left side of the field in terms of the attacking side has been dead for a long time. It's been struggling for a long time. I think we could remember when Rafinha was at Leeds United. We wanted to get him because we thought Rafinha could do a job on the left for us. That's been how long we've been trying to bring in a proper player who could potentially, do what Saka is doing on the right, also on the left. So, bro, I think this is a position that has been long overlooked on. We need to fill it as soon as possible if we want to compete for the big titles or the big trophies. So I think this is something we need to attend to this summer transfer window. It should not be left as an unfinished business. So I would, if that means getting one from those both from either strikers and getting the left winger, I'm very okay with it. I'm even okay with getting the Šeško as the number 9, as long as we can get a player of the caliber and profile of a Rodrigo on the left. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because, like Steve was trying to explain, that left side, if we get a proper left winger and somebody who could match what Saka could potentially bring on the right side, that pushes us, I think, a step or two further. And if the striker could do some way close to 15 or more goals, that could potentially be the difference. And when you add the goals from midfield and defense to it, so I'm even ready to sacrifice the quality of the number 9 as long as it's going to mean we can get a left winger also. So I think that's where I would lean towards. But Charles, if we are able to pull both strikers off right now and still bring in a left winger, I would want all 3. I know Steve agrees with that also.
All day. If we could go shopping and just buy what we want, that would be wonderful. Arsenal go shopping and say, gimme, take it over, take it all into the preseason, get everyone ready to rumble. And now we're talking FIFA, FC, we're talking FC 25 settings, we're talking rotation. And you know what? Whoever comes off the bench is better than who's on the starting line because he's not fatigued. It would be wonderful, like for like every time. But unfortunately, Arsenal are going to be picking one striker, in my opinion, and they'll be picking one winger. And I think right now it's that trying to find that financial balance. There is a lot of money available, of course, wages and yada yada, and trying to structure the payments. So trying to see if, for one thing, which player wants Arsenal and which player can we actually get. Now, Rodrigo, does he want Arsenal, or is he just, I'm going to take my time and maybe I'll move to Arsenal? And we don't want it to be another Nico Williams situation with Rodrigo. We don't. Nico Williams wasted a whole transfer window on him, and I don't want to play that game ever again. MG Ram says, what if we sign both Šeško and Gyokeres? Can Šeško or Gyokeres play on the left? Šeško has been playing more towards the right, not more central in his respective league at the moment, and he struggled a little bit, not being the focal point. Gyokeres has been the focal point, and it has been to his strength. Now, I'll be honest with you. In my opinion, horses for courses, it'd be great to get both, but I think you want a number 9 and a backup 9, not a number 9 and a guy who could possibly play 9 and or 11. I think we're looking for specialists now, guys. I don't think we should try and do a project, in my opinion. Now, I agree having both of them would be great, but I don't think you want to hinder Arsenal's strength on the left-hand side to play a player out of position and see if we can make it work. I think we should be going for, in my opinion, an out-and-out 11 who plays off that wing, who can cut in and score, and a number 9 who wants to be a number 9. Doesn't want to be a false 9, doesn't want to be a 10. He comes in and says, I'm a number 9. I want that number. That's me. That's what I think Arsenal are doing, what are looking to do right now. I think the mistakes that we've made in the past was the Kai Havertz. Oh, he's a number 9. He's a number 10. He's a we don't know, right? Trossard can play 9. Jesus can play 9. Alexander Zinchenko is actually a left back. Really? Not really. And we've tried to get players and mold them to play certain positions, but unfortunately, they're not specialists. And that's when the big games come in, and that's where the little inconsistencies start to show, where Jesus isn't clinical, Jesus is in the right positions. And to be honest, many an Arsenal fan will sit there and say Jesus isn't good enough. No, he isn't, not centrally. But as a backup on the right wing, I think, yeah, possibly. But not as a number 9 and never as a number 9. Unfortunately, guys, we've lost Akpos. We'll see him soon, possibly. It's been Internet FC fucking around all day. Oh, wait a minute. What do we got here? Brenny says, forget about Rodrigo. Would be Gyokeres, Saka, Sesko, Trossard if he's still here. Wanyeri, for example, would be in rotation heaven, yeah? But again, Gyokeres and Sesko, which one would start? Because you couldn't start both. Richmond says, a bit out of left field. Oh, yeah, dude, that won't happen. Dude, that's not going to happen, bro. That's not going to happen, man. Oh, man. No, we're not going there. We're not going there. Look, Atletico, I'm not going to let him go. I'm with you. Older. Yes, he's older. Again, playing in a tougher league. Atletico Madrid scored a lot of goals. Let me just double check him. How many goals did he score? Where are we? 20 goals and 2 assists in La Liga. Now, look, I'll be honest with you. Do I see that kind of a move for Arsenal? No. 1, his age. 2, how much he's going to cost us. But that would be awesome. Awesome, my guy, if we could get Solo. Here we go. Havertz heat map is on the right. Nowhere where a striker should be. A striker will also elevate Declan, going too far up front before building up. Exactly. Unfortunately, just like Akpos was saying, Havertz is having to fall in too deep to pick up the ball, much like Martin Odegaard. I've seen Martin Odegaard almost playing as a right back in many instances to pick up the ball. I think our players need to know their positions. And Havertz, unfortunately, pulling back so far, is out of position and now no longer a number 9. Jesus has done it many a time. But I believe the reason why this is happening is because they're not the out-and-out number 9. Yeah, if you have an Aubameyang, you're not going to want an Aubameyang not to be sitting on the edge, not to be sitting on the line or on shoulder to shoulder with the defender. You're not going to want him to come back. You're not. You're going to want him to leave him right there. So that way he can explode, take off, and break, and hopefully stretch that defense. Whereas a Havertz isn't that kind of a player. He's more of a midfielder. But you're right, 100%. He's falling into the position that he naturally wants to be in, which is the midfield. Unfortunately, he's playing false 9. Gun Down UK. Here we go. My Steve, long time no see. Hope you're doing well. Thank you very much. We're doing very well at the moment. Arsenal ain't signed no one yet, except for Zub. But yeah, I hope you're doing well, my guy. Hope everything's working out on your end. Boston says left wing is as important as a striker position. Sees it from my views. Cool. Even more maybe. Thank you. I'm like that too. I would take Rodrigo and Sesko to balance the front line, not Gyokeres up front. And you're entitled to your opinion. That's fair shout. I think Akpos, you were saying that earlier, that if it meant you were going to get Rodrigo, you'd take Sesko all day. And to be honest, a Rodrigo signing with Sesko in the middle, Sesko would be in heaven. Any striker would be in heaven. Bukayo Saka to the right, Rodrigo to the left. He's laughing.
Because you know you have two top quality players that would be creating a lot of chances for you. All you need to do is just to make sure you put the ball on the back of the net, in my opinion. With Rodrigo on the left, Saka on the right, you will score a lot of goals.
The link up would be phenomenal, especially through the midfield as well. It would be because you'd have two wingers that are very much aware, goal threats, and can ping a ball. Now, this is where that third dimension comes in, and you have your striker sitting in the middle, much like Giroud, the lamppost that he was. But as much of a lamppost as he was, we were fluent going forward.
Yeah.
Now, Šeško or even a Gyokeres, in my opinion, Gyokeres with Rodrigo to his left, my God, forget about it. As clunky as he is, it wouldn't matter.
I think if you can recreate that, bringing in a Rodrigo on the left, Saka on the right, and Gyokeres through the middle, I think Gyokeres scores 20 league goals easy in a season for me.
All day. As long as they both stay fit, all day. I think rotation will be a little bit key to Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Not much on Gyokeres. I'm just wondering how Rodrigo would be able to handle the Prem. Gyokeres is just obviously the statistics that you put out before. This is a guy who doesn't get injured. Thomas Partey was also that guy too, but he came to Arsenal. Look what we did to him. But if we can keep our players fit, I think Gyokeres would have a wonderful time. In 2 to 3 years, he'd probably hit 30 years old. Don't get me wrong, he would drop down a few notches. Then yes, we'd be looking for another striker to replace him. But this would mean this move for Gyokeres now, which is looking like it's very much on, guys. It's not like it's off. It's very much on, right? For me, right now, I'm excited because if this is where we go and we get Gyokeres over along, we've got Zubimendi in the midfield, and then we potentially start to look at the 11 and 10 positions, if we can fill those two slots as well with quality, Arsenal football team next season is not going to be a walk in the park to get past. It's not going to be, they're defensively sound and the midfield strong. No, it's going to be like the defense is sound, but going forward, they are a threat. They can pass the ball, they can control the ball, and they are unpredictable now. And I think that's key to Arsenal's success next season, the unpredictability. Brenny says Gyokeres would start over Šeško. If you were to have both all day, but I don't believe that either one of them would be coming to Arsenal to sit on the bench. And with Šeško's demands, not only 24 hours ago saying that he wanted a release clause in order to use Arsenal like a stepping stone, I don't think he's coming to Arsenal to sit on the bench if he's asking for a release clause.
And if I had to what you were saying, if he wanted to come to Arsenal to sit on the bench, then he would have signed a summer ago, because a summer ago, according to the report, Mikel did not guarantee him a starting shirt, and that was like a deal breaker during the talk. So I don't think he would want to move to where he's not going to have quality game time right now.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think he's going to be wanting to get minutes and try to build his career, because right now his stats are abysmal. We'll end up signing Gyokeres. Šeško wanting a release clause in a deal means he won't commit, and Arsenal won't spend big on him for that. Exactly, because Arsenal are looking to invest in a player to hopefully be able to recoup something if he makes it. Because look, let's be honest, Real Madrid come in for him, he's going to want to move. We're going to want to collect some big coin. But if let's say if it's only 20% over what we've paid, Real Madrid aren't going to even worry about it. They're just going to pay the release clause, and he's going to move to Real Madrid, and we'll be stuck with holding our proverbial dicks in our hands. And don't get me wrong, we'll make some money, but nowhere near what we could make. And then there's no point bringing in this possible prospect of a great player with the potential to recoup some money. It defeats the purpose, in my opinion. So I'm 100% with you on that one. Here we go. When do you think Miles Lewis-Skelly will make his transition to the midfield? And could signing Hato help this happen sooner? Yes. If we do sign a player like Hato, then I do believe Skelly will be going into the midfield. Now, with the news of Partey possibly moving on, it does open up an opportunity in the midfield for Skelly. I don't know what you think about that, Akpos, but do you think that with Partey moving on, Hato possibly coming in, does this mean Skelly could finally get pushed into the midfield, because he looks awesome in the midfield?
Yeah, I do believe that, because if you bring in some defensive reinforcement in terms of the left back position, or a centre back that potentially also play as a left back, which Eto fits the bill for. I think that also makes room for Miles Lewis Kelly to come into the midfield. And just like you rightly said, if Thomas Partey is also going to be going out of the door, which I'm hoping that's not going to be the case, I'm hoping that we are going to, find a way to try to convince him to stay. Because if he leaves now, I feel it would be way more expensive for Arsenal to replace him. But some might want to say there might be some potential, cheaper options to replace Thomas Partey out there. But I'm looking at the quality of Thomas Partey now. If you want to bring in a midfielder of the same quality, you are looking at a massive transfer fee. Let's say a player like Moises Caicedo at Chelsea, a big money move. Let's say a player like Carlos Baleba at Brighton, also potentially a big money move. But I've heard a lot of good things about Aguemo at Sevilla. I'm hoping that it's going to be a player that, will come into Arsenal and do a business if we are going to let Thomas Partey go. So, but with respect to Miles Lewis Kelly, I think if Partey leaves, that would be an opportunity for him to also showcase what he can do in that midfield position. Because I love MLS. I love his heart. I love the way he has played in the last season, where he has burst into the scene. He's a player that does not play with fear, and is a player who's also press resistant. So I think that's also something that we need in the middle of the pack, because teams will try to prevent us from playing, and having a player like Miles Lewis Kelly in the midfield that has that burst of pace, that has that ability to turn and dribble out of tight corners and turn defense into attack, that could be a big plus for our midfield. But let's see what's going to happen. I'm not very convinced if Mikel Arteta would want to bring him back into midfield, but let's see if Partey's absence in the midfield could, convince Mikel to try to bring in Miles Lewis Kelly into the midfield fold. Because I think the last part of last season, we saw some games where we saw MLS in the midfield, but let's see what's going to happen. If Partey leaves, let's see.
Yeah, the opportunity's there. It's up to Mikel Arteta to make that move, being the coach. Football capital in the building. Capital, my guy Borche says to me, and this is a United fan, guys. United fan here. Gyokeres United, here we go. Delete this video. He says, Steve, I'm sorry, baby, sweetheart, darling, honey, you can't even hold on to him, Waymo. He's thinking about Spurs. Because they remember the Spurs, they've won European freaking trophy now. He doesn't want the 17th best team in the league, 16th best team in the league. No, he wants 15th. Sorry, buddy. Gyokeres has already said no to Juve. Juve offering him 11 million a year. And he said, and it's Lisbon have said, don't even waste your time. The guy wants Arsenal. He doesn't want no United. He doesn't want no Juventus. Doesn't want a Spurs. No. He's going to sit there on his holiday, wait till he gets a phone call from Arsenal. Say, come over to London. We've got this new kit for you. Come over here, see what it's like. Life in London with some quality on the bench, quality on the pitch. You know what I mean? No leaky roofs. None of that. None of that. Decent canteen. We don't starve our workers. No. There'll be none of that. I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry. These United fans. What can I say? Here we go. Boston says Arteta won't move Skelly from left back. He's way too good, and he inverts into the midfield anyway. They'll potentially get a replacement. You know what? That's a good shout. But
yeah,
look, it can go either or. It's a double-edged sword, right? Right now, like Akpos. You could leave Skelly on the left-hand side where he's been playing absolutely wonderfully. But you notice, I see him when he comes into the midfield, he's a different animal. He's really he can really controls that midfield very well. Defensively sound, good on the ball, can bing a ball, can take a shot. He's fluent in both positions. This is where we talked about Zinchenko. Remember when we signed Zinchenko, we're like, oh, he can play the midfield and he can play left back.
Yeah.
No, he can't play left back. Maybe he can play left. Maybe he can play midfield. Whereas Skelly can 100% play left back, and in my opinion, can 100% play in the midfield. I guess we're going to have to see. I guess it's definitely going to have to be one of those things where, unfortunately, depending on what happens tomorrow or the day after, on what happens with Partey, that'll be what's going to happen in regards to Miles Lewis Skelly and how much money is available. for us to be able to spend on a replacement for him. Do you think we are being two-partied about Šeško and Gyokeres, as in only pursuing them both is blocking us from other options which may also be feasible? Now, that's a good point, but I believe that Arsenal are really holding their cards close to their chest because, and I'm going to jump in on this one quick, Akpos, because I think depending on who they sign and for how much will depend on how much money they're going to be able to spend on their left wing and their number.
Yeah.
And I do believe we're going for a 10 and the number 10 option.
True.
When it comes to the striker, there are your Lookmans, there are your Osmans, but they're not even on Arsenal's radar. And at the moment, I know it sounds like a two-tiered sort of a situation, but I think what we're trying to do is to put our targets up against each other, where one fears the other more and makes a move on their respective club, much like Gyokeres has now, and pretty much told Lisbon that, no, I'm not interested in Juve. I'm not interested in Man United. I'm not interested in anyone. You deal with Arsenal and I move. Make it happen. And that's what Arsenal are doing now. I like this approach. And I'm hoping Šeško does the same thing, but unfortunately, Šeško isn't sort of falling for it, and he's sort of trying to push back. So I think the idea for Arsenal is trying to get these players to play against each other. So hopefully they try to get in as soon as possible, but it's not falling into place right now. I don't know what do you think, Akpos? Do you think that we could end up possibly shooting ourselves in our foot?
I don't think so. I think Andre Beta is experienced enough, and with the kind of profile, the kind of resume he has come to Arsenal with, I want to trust the man to cook. That's why I've been very patient. If it was the previous administration who were in charge of the transfers, I would have been livid right now. But I'm so calm because I want to trust the new sporting director to get his business done. Because if you look at the track record where it's coming from, is a sporting director that knows he knows his job and he knows how to be effective at it. So personally, I love this approach. I love what it's doing right now. I think there should also be a potential one or two other options on his cards that we don't know of right now, that if these guys are potentially available, they could also, come into the picture. So I love his approach and how he's going about it, because it also put us in a position where I think it's an advantage for us. Because if it was just one player we are going all in for, that player and that club could potentially, want to take advantage of that. Oh, they don't have any other option. They don't have any other player that they could, go in for and be asking for terms that are untenable. So I feel like right now I love Beta's approach, and I hope that he would get the best player among these options in these particular positions that we need to fill in. So for now, I'm not worried. I just want to trust Beta, to continue to move with his strategy, because I feel like is the specialist here, is the one who knows the player deep down that he wants to get for Arsenal. So let's see how this game is going to play out eventually.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be one of those movies where you're on the edge of your seat. You don't know what's going to happen next when it comes to Arsenal this transfer window. Wheeler says Arteta didn't push hard for Watkins to come through the door. Mm-hmm. How are Arsenal fans confident Gyokeres gets over the line either? Now, that's a good point. And I believe that right now, the issue that you have with Mikel Arteta is he hasn't got the control anymore. He has a say on what kind of player he wants, but he hasn't got the choice anymore. Now, look, I'm going to go down this rabbit hole, but Mikel Arteta is on a very thin thread, and he really needs to fill that number 9 role, regardless of his love and respect for Kai Havertz, because if it doesn't work out soon, I don't believe Mikel Arteta will be Arsenal's manager by the end of next season if he starts to play hardball again. And it's going to be very hard for Mikel to get a job anywhere else where they're going to allow him 900 million to spend, because after this window, if it goes the way it is going, we could have spent close to 900 million total whilst he's been the manager. So the reason why I'm confident is because the owners have decided to get in an experienced sporting director. We are moving in a fashion that's very different from how we've moved further in other years. So I'm confident because, hell, I don't know what Bird is capable of. But I guess we'll see. I guess we'll definitely see. When it comes to teams like United and Juventus over Arsenal, I don't think that Juventus or Arsenal right now are as attractive a team or a possible project as Arsenal are. You know, you got a team like Arsenal Football Club that are knocking on the door to possibly win the Premier League. Where unfortunately, United and Juventus are underachieving. United are in a rebuild, and Juventus, and to an extent as well. Vlahovic is not hitting the back of the net like he used to. He went there and he struggled, and now they're looking to rebuild the squad. Players like Gyokeres at 27 years old shouldn't be thinking about going to a club where it's about rebuild, because by the time they do rebuild, his career will be over. Rebuilds don't happen in 1 year. They happen over successive years. Obviously, you can see what's happened at Arsenal. Trust the process, in my opinion. Luca, I'm sorry, no, this isn't a call-in show. I was gonna do that, but dude, nah. What do you think, Akpos? The Arteta didn't push for Watkins. Is it because he wasn't the guy?
Well, I think one thing we know about Mikel Arteta is he tends to be very stubborn with his players that he really wants. If Mikel wants a player, I think there are chances he would not okay for Arsenal to get another player in that position until he's able to get his wish. We've seen him do it with some certain players that would be potentially be joining, because Mikel has always wanted Martin Zubimendi, for example. And we saw how long it took, but eventually he's getting his man now. And credit to him and Gaspar Edu for all the work they put into this Martin Zubimendi transfer. So for me, I think we could see some handprint of Mikel in that transfer window, because I feel like Mikel really wants certain players. He's going to wait till those players are available. And all of this time he has spent waiting for these players has put us in a very difficult position. We saw him do it with Nico Williams. We also saw him do it with what's his name, Alexander Isak. Also, in terms when we could potentially have gone out there and get other strikers. While we were trying to get Isak wasn't available. We pushed for Benjamin Sesko. Sesko was not available or did not want to join because he was not convinced he was going to get a starting shirt. We decided not to go for another striker when there was Victor Osimhen available on loan up until transfer deadline day. There was also Ivan Toney available in the same transfer window. Arsenal decided not to go for any other striker. And for me, I think that Mikel Arteta has a huge role to play in these decisions. So I feel we know that once Mikel wants a player, definitely he's willing to wait. But we are all seeing right now since the coming of Andre Beta that we are moving from that transfer tactics. We are moving into, going for other players where a player that we've been chasing for a while is not readily available. Let me use Nico Williams, for example. Going into this transfer window, personally, I knew Nico Williams is not a player that we can get. I knew Nico Williams is not a player that we should put up there in our list, because this is a player that has showed you his edge. He has showed you where he wants to go, where he wants to be. So you don't need to keep on, trying to flog this kind of players, trying to push and go for this kind of players where you could potentially go for other players that would be of higher or pretty much the same quality to come into this team and do a job for us. Because I think this transfer tactics has not helped us in the last couple of transfers, and we should move on from it. So me, I'm not in support of Mikel waiting for any players to be available right now. If player A is not available, we need to go for player B that could potentially come and help us achieve our set goals and objectives. So I personally would say Mikel has got a thing or two to do with us not signing only Watkins in the last winter transfer window.
I think you're 100% correct there, because at the time, Mikel had a lot of pull at Arsenal. I think that has definitely changed. Last season, being as lackluster as it was, underachieving, I think he's, in my opinion, more than likely been demoted. You're a coach, we'll take your opinion, and you will do your job. We will provide you said players, and that will be it. Because I don't believe Mikel Arteta, if he continues in this manner, will be Arsenal's manager until the end of next season. I think if he does underachieve next season, that'll be the end of him, and they'll move on. Because he cannot continue in this fashion anymore. You can't keep doing the same thing and expecting something to change. The definition of insanity, in my opinion. But Arsenal Football Club right now should be jumping for joy. The way I see it, Gyokeres has pretty much shown us his cards, has told the rest of the world, including any other possible suitors, that he's not interested in them. He's only interested in Arsenal. That's put Sporting in a position to do business with Arsenal if they want to.
Yeah.
Now, you don't want a situation where a player does not want to play for his respective club anymore, but it's looking like it could go that way. And I think right now, with what Gyokeres is doing, which I understand, there was a gentleman's agreement and that has come to, unfortunately, hasn't been upheld. He's decided to say, no, I want Arsenal, that's it. So whether it be Juventus, whether it be Man United, whether it be Spurs, whoever it is, I am not interested. I want Arsenal. That puts us in a very strong position. And if Arsenal are as smart as they are, Berta wanted Gyokeres. And now with this sort of a move from Gyokeres, it's looking highly likely that Arsenal, more than likely, once hopefully Gyokeres is finished from his holidays, will be sitting down to discuss his demands and hopefully meeting Lisbon, maybe a little higher price than what they first came in at. But I do believe, in my opinion, it'll be Gyokeres coming to Arsenal, not Šeško. After all that's been happening in the background, I think Gyokeres is the better fit. I think right now and today and tomorrow, Gyokeres is the better player. And I don't believe Mikel Arteta is the kind of player who can develop. The kind of coach who's going to be developing a Benjamin Šeško, in my opinion, to become as good as a RVP or whatever it may be. But guys, look, we've been going for an hour on Gyokeres. I'm not going to come back on this Gyokeres chit-chat unless there is news. Same with Šeško. I said that yesterday and I'm saying it again today. This is the Gyokeres chit-chat show about his transfer and any sort of news that came up. This is news. So I decided, you know what? What's going to happen is we're going to chat about it because it's big enough for Arsenal. It's big enough for us. If there is no more real news on Šeško, no more real news on Gyokeres, we're not touching base until one of them signs. That's the way it works. I'm not here to keep talking about the same old players with little snippets of bullshit. And I'm pretty sure Akpos is the same, but we've got another player that we want to talk about, and more than likely maybe Monday, maybe same time Monday, we're going to have to sit down and talk about a potential move for a player that me and Akpos highly rate that could be coming to Arsenal as well. But we're not going to let the cat out of the bag. But I'm thinking Monday or Tuesday next week we'll come in and chit-chat transfers in regards to a midfielder. Akpos, my guy, how you feeling? You feeling good about this Gyokeres thing?
Bro, I'm feeling excited about the Gyokeres thing, and I'm happy that he's showing intent that he wants to play for Arsenal, that he wants to join. So I think let's see what's going to happen. If Sporting is going to let their man get his wish, let's see what's going to happen, and let's also see what's going to happen with the Šeško situation. If Arsenal is truly the club that he wants to play for, and if RB Leipzig are also willing to play ball. So let's see. I think it's an interesting one, and I hope we're going to get the best man. For me, yes, I would want to pick Gyokeres over Šeško, but if Arsenal and Berta and the guys calling the shots feel like Šeško is the man for the job, okay, let's get Šeško. And I'm hoping it's going to come to the Arsenal and it's going to get the job done, because at the end of the day, we just want the player to succeed. So it does not really matter if it's the player we want that Arsenal is going to get eventually, but whoever they get through the door, we want that player to succeed. So not every time our opinions are going to be correct in terms of those players. It's all projection at the end of the day. So, but let's see what's going to happen. And we hope Arsenal eventually get the best man, because that's what I know Steve wants. That's what we want. That's what I know every Arsenal fans out there wants.
The right man for the job, and hopefully he can succeed is all we want. Guys, if you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe if you can. Akpos, where can they find you?
Well, you can always find me here. You can always find me here on the channel. And hopefully I'll be putting out more work also on my other channel, the Football Talk Shop. But for those who are from you, if you understand Pidgin, you can always find me on Football in Pidgin, where I put out a lot of football content, not just Arsenal content, a lot of football content that revolves around club football, revolves around African football, also in the Pidgin lingua. So thanks for having me on the show today, brother. Thanks for everybody who jumped on today's stream. And if you've not subscribed to the channel, the subscribe button, and let's push the channel up to the 1K milestone. But I hope we all enjoy the rest of our weekend. Thanks for having me, bro.
It's been my absolute pleasure. And yes, guys, thank you for joining us again. Love the comments, love the chit chat and chatter that was going along. I was reading everything as I was going along. It's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for your support. And look, guys, from the Aussie Gooner, from Akpos, it's Uru for now, eh? Uru.